The night I finally said something, I was standing in the middle of a grocery store parking lot at 10:47 p.m., holding a bag of ice I didn't need, watching Paige laugh at something her phone said. And I thought, I have been doing this wrong for a long time. Paige and I had been best friends for almost 7 years. Long enough that I knew her coffee order, her tell when she was lying, and exactly which topics would make her go quiet mid-sentence. Long enough that her parents gave me a key to their house so I could feed the dog when they traveled, and her dad called me his honorary son, which was either touching or devastating depending on the day. She lived 4 blocks from me. We had somehow ended up in the same neighborhood without planning it, which her mom described as fate, and which I described as proximity to good takeout. We saw each other most weeks, sometimes most days. If something funny happened to me, she was the first person I texted. If something broke her down, she called me before she called anyone else. We were not dating. We were not officially anything. We were best friends. And I had been quietly losing my mind about it for years. I say quietly because that was the only way I knew how to do it. Keep things light. Stay in your lane. Be the person she could count on without ever making it strange. I had gotten very good at that. Almost too good. The grocery store thing was her idea. We had been at her friend Deja's birthday dinner, and on the way home she asked if I wanted to stop and get stuff for a bonfire because it was the kind of night that felt like a waste to end early. The bonfire never happened. We ended up standing in the parking lot eating popsicles from the freezer section and talking for an hour and a half until the store closed around us. That was Paige. Every plan turned into something better. Every night turned into something longer. On the drive home she fell asleep before we even hit the highway. The popsicle wrapper still in her hand, and I drove with the windows cracked and the city lights washing over the windshield, and I thought the exact same thought I always thought in those moments. This is the best part of my life, and I'm handling it like a coward. Her name was Paige Ellery. She was 28, taught 2nd grade, had strong opinions about bookshelf organization, and laughed at her own jokes before she finished telling them. She had been in 2 relationships since I'd known her, both of which had ended without much drama, and both of which she'd described, after the fact, in eerily similar terms. He was fine, she'd said once. But he wasn't really there, you know? Like, physically present, emotionally somewhere else. I had nodded like a therapist and said nothing. Her brother Marcus had less restraint. He'd pulled me aside at their parents' 4th of July cookout a couple years back and said, "You know she's talking about you when she says that, right?" I told him I didn't know what he meant. He looked at me the way people look at someone who walks into a glass door, patient, a little sad. The night everything changed was not dramatic. That's the thing about real life. It doesn't give you a clean setup. There's no music, no slow motion entrance, no villain walking into frame right on cue. There was just a Sunday in October, a poker night at her brother's house that Paige had invited me to, and her coworker, Tanner, sitting across from me for 3 hours, doing something that slowly made me want to leave the planet. Tanner was not a bad person. I want to be clear about that. He brought craft beer and laughed at Marcus's jokes, and helped fold up chairs at the end of the night. He was also clearly interested in Paige, which was his right, and which was none of my business. Except I kept watching him watch her. The way he leaned in when she talked. The way he laughed a second too long at things that were moderately funny. The way he asked her about her classroom kids like he had done research on what would matter to her, which honestly was effective. Paige loved talking about her students. She lit up when she talked about the ones who had come a long way. The ones who made her crazy. The ones who came in on Mondays with stories that didn't belong in a 2nd grade classroom, but came from homes that had handed them weight too early. She was telling one of those stories now, leaning forward over the table with her hands moving the way they always did when she cared about something. And Tanner was listening, really listening. And I watched that and felt something tighten in my chest that I had no fair right to name. Marcus caught me looking. He tilted his head just slightly in Paige's direction, raised an eyebrow, and then looked away. He did not say a word. He did not have to. On the drive home, Paige asked me what I thought of Tanner. I said he seemed like a good guy. She hummed. "You were quiet tonight." I said I was tired. She looked over at me from the passenger seat. I could feel it even though I was keeping my eyes on the road. "You sure?" "I'm sure." She didn't push it. That was the thing. She never pushed when I pulled back. She just gave me the room and waited. It was one of the things I loved most about her and also the thing that made it easy to stay stuck. When someone makes it comfortable to not say the hard thing, you stop saying it. I dropped her off and drove home and sat in my kitchen for an embarrassingly long time. 3 weeks later, Paige's school had a fundraiser gala. The kind of event where parents experiences and wrote checks for the reading program. She had been planning it for months as part of the PTA committee she'd somehow gotten onto against her will. She asked me to come because she needed a friendly face and said I could eat for free if I helped move chairs. I was technically there as support. In practice, I was her buffer, her table partner, her person to make eye contact with when a conversation went sideways, and the one who carried both her coat and mine because the venue turned the AC down to something aggressively Arctic fat. At some point between the silent auction and the dessert hour, her colleague Bev found me near the punch table. Bev was about 60, wore her reading glasses on her head as a permanent accessory, and had the particular energy of someone who had watched too many things go wrong and made peace with all of them. She handed me a plate with 2 tiny sandwiches on it, like she was an emissary. "Paige made sure there was vegetarian stuff for you," she said. I told her that was thoughtful. Bev gave me a look that contained an entire conversation. "She's been telling me about you since September." I wasn't sure what to do with that. "Tells me?" I asked. Bev picked up her punch. "Just little things. Oh, my friend did this. My friend said that. Did you know my friend taught himself to make proper croissants during the pandemic?" I told her to put up a picture of you so I know who I'm hearing about. I looked across the room where Paige was laughing with a cluster of parents. Her hair pinned up, but already coming loose. In a few places, her dark green dress catching the light. "She's a good friend," I said, which was technically true and also the single most insufficient sentence I'd ever spoken. Bev gave me the look again. "Sure," she said, and walked away. The thing Marcus had said to me 2 years earlier, I had stored it, filed it away like evidence I was not ready to use. But it had stayed there, and the thing Bev said joined it, and the image of watching Tanner lean in across the poker table joined that, and by November, I was carrying all of it like a bag that kept getting heavier. I did not have a grand plan. I want to say, I did. I want to tell you that I thought it through, timed it right, chose my moment carefully. The truth is, I almost said nothing as usual, until the night Paige called me at 11:30 from her apartment parking lot, because she had locked her keys inside her car and was too tired to be calm about it. I drove over. I always drove over. I had a spare she'd given me after the 3rd time this had happened, and I let her into her car while she leaned against the bumper looking exhausted and a little embarrassed. "Vic, this is going to keep happening," she said. "Probably. I need a system. You need a carabiner. I need someone who doesn't mind driving over at midnight." I looked at her then. "I don't mind." She met my eyes. "I know you don't." That's the thing. I didn't know what she meant. I also knew exactly what she meant, and for some reason, standing in a parking lot at 11:45 p.m. under a flickering light that buzzed every few seconds, I stopped doing the thing I always did. I stopped redirecting. "Why is that the thing?" Paige went quiet. I waited. She picked at the strap of her bag. "Because other people mind," she said. "Or they do it, but they make you feel it. Or they say they don't mind but you know they're keeping score." She looked up. You never make me feel like I'm too much. I swallowed. Is that all you think you are to me? Someone who's not too much? Paige blinked. Before I could talk myself out of it, I kept going. Low voice. Steady as I could manage. I came over tonight because I wanted to. Not because it's my job. Not because I'm a good friend with solid follow-through. Because when you called, I wanted to be the one who picked up. I always want to be the one. She was very still. The parking lot buzzing filled the silence. Ryan, she started. I know the timing is bad, I said. I know this is a parking lot and you've had a long day and I smell like whatever I made for dinner. But I've been careful for a long time and I'm not sure being careful is working for either of us anymore. Her eyes went soft in a way I had not let myself look for before. What does that mean? She asked. I exhaled. It means I don't want to be the guy you call, I said. I want to be the person you come home to. And if I'm wrong about what this is, tell me, and I'll take the world's most awkward Uber home and we'll figure out the rest. But I needed to stop pretending I don't know what I feel. Paige looked at me for a long time. Long enough that I started preparing the graceful exit speech in my head. Long enough that I heard the parking lot light buzz 6 full cycles. Then she said, "You're not wrong." 3 words. My entire chest rearranged itself. I've been trying to not make it weird, she said, voice quieter now. Every time something happened between us, some moment that felt like more, I'd walk it back in my head. Tell myself I was reading into it. That you were just being you, and I was projecting. And I didn't want to be wrong and lose what we already had. I know, I said. You know, I've been doing the same thing. She gave a small, surprised laugh. Both of us? She pressed her lips together. That's kind of ridiculous. It really is. She shook her head at the ground. 7 years, I know. We wasted 7 years being considerate. I almost smiled. Maybe not wasted. Just slow. She looked up. Then she stepped forward, and I didn't move. And she put her hand against my chest the same way you'd check something to make sure it was real. I'd like to stop being slow, she said. So would I. And then the parking lot light went out. Not dramatically. Not timed to anything. Just because it was old and that's what old lights do. And we were standing in the dark and it was still there, and I kissed her. It wasn't loud or huge. It was just true. When we pulled apart, she was laughing a little, eyes bright despite the hour and the long day and the bad parking lot lighting. You came over here with a spare key and ruined my whole concept of normal, she said. You should have used a carabiner, I told her. She laughed again, and the sound landed in my chest the way it always had. Except now, I didn't have to pretend. It was just because she was funny. Bev told me, 3 weeks later over email, because Paige had apparently updated her entire staff, that she felt personally vindicated. She had forwarded me a photo of a sticky note on Paige's classroom door that said, Mrs. Allori is having an excellent week. I do not know if Bev put it there or one of the kids did. I chose not to ask. Marcus texted me the morning Paige told him. One message, no context. Finally, followed by a gif of someone falling off a treadmill, which, I assume meant something about how long it had taken us to get here. Paige and I went on a real first date. Dinner, a place she'd mentioned once 6 months ago that I had mentally noted and never said anything about. She noticed immediately. You remembered that, she said. You mentioned it once. She looked at me across the table. You've been paying attention for a long time. Yeah, I said. I have. She was quiet for a second. Then she reached across and straightened my collar the way she always had. Except this time she didn't pull her hand back right away. Me too, she said. And I realized then that we hadn't really started something new. We had just finally admitted what had been there the whole time. In every midnight drive, every grocery store parking lot, every dinner that ran long, every time she called and I picked up, without checking who it was, because I already knew I was going to answer. It had always been this. We had just been very, very careful with it. We don't have to be anymore.